We think of responsibility as being this horrible thing that when we get older, oh, I have all these responsibilities. Well, then what in the hell gives your life meaning and purpose except for the fulfillment of your responsibilities? You know that many of you want to have a family someday, you want to have children someday. Isn't that one of the most significant responsibilities that a person can take on, to have a family? If you want to raise kids, look around the world. We complain about the world so much. Every person was raised by somebody or not raised by somebody. That's a responsibility that some people did not take seriously enough. This idea that we want to have free time and leisure, some people probably have too much of it, which is why we parent the way that we do. It's why we teach the way that we teach. I'll tell you one thing for sure. If you don't have responsibility, it isn't that you therefore have no stress. No, your lack of stress comes from the fulfillment of your responsibilities. Having taken care of the things that are important, having done something meaningful, having done something purposeful. You don't sit there and go like, I have nothing to do. Why do you have nothing to do? Because I have done everything. I have fulfilled my responsibilities. When we haven't, or when we feel like we're missing something, those are the things that will loom on you. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of you already wake up in the middle of the night, stressed about some things. Why? Because you haven't fulfilled those things yet. So little responsibility is given to us that we come to believe that it's something to be afraid of. How meaningful of a life do you want to have? That will determine how big of a responsibility you take up. You want to have a really meaningful life, then you find like the heaviest goddamn thing that you can in life, and you pick it up and you carry it. Not because you have to, not because you're paid to do it, not because it's expected of you, but you do it willingly. Because within the context of that matrix, you don't have a lot of freedom. A lot of it's programmed. So kind of like going back to what Santi was saying, and Jose was saying, so as I point out, I give you freedom in here. You have the assignments I offer to teach you, but I don't stand above you. I'm not trying to change anyone's life, man. I've told you from very early on, I am not a role model. So I'm not going to stand above you and, hey, come on, get this done. Come on, get this done. Put your phones away. Do this, do that. If I do that, would your grades be better? Yeah. But if that worked, I don't suppose you would need me to do it, because you've been through 11 years and how many teachers who have behaved that way. If that worked to cement your work ethic that way, you wouldn't need me to stand above you telling you to do it. You'd already automatically do that. But that's one of the beautiful things about 12th grade, is that you're just about done from here anyway. Graduated. You got one more semester after this, and then you're going to go out into what we call the real world. Because I guess this is a fake world, this is a matrix, I suppose, in the sense that it is controlled a bit. You have, the bells tell you when to leave, you're given a seating chart, told where to sit, and so a lot of your decisions in life are made for you. But then the question becomes, how responsible are you? In other words, do we force you to do those things because we don't think that you're responsible? Or are you not responsible because we force you to do those things, and so therefore the responsibility falls on the shoulders of the people who make you behave in these ways? We'll get to that as well. Why does that frighten us so much? How many of you guys are frightened about having to be responsible adults? What's so frightening about it?
Oh, well, just paying for stuff.
Like what?
Wasting money.
Wasting money or paying for stuff? Those are two different things, man.
You're on your own, I guess. People expect
You have things to lose.
you're older already, so you're expected to do everything on your own. What if you need help?
What am I missing? Specifics. Give me some detail. What do you mean like that? So what are you expected to do?
I mean,
Do everything on your own.
Everything.
You don't want to ask people, because then you feel like a burden. You don't want to feel like a burden to them.
So we'd wait till that graduation day.
You're not ready.
What's that?
You're not ready.
Ooh. So that's the hard part, in some sense. I'm not ready for it. And then of course we can ask, why aren't we ready for it? Is it because we're not given enough responsibility? Well, what do you do with responsibility that you're given? We want freedom. So you said bills. Like what? Interesting. You said bills. Like what?
oh, I mean, I guess the electric bill, phone bill, internet,
Expensive.
because you know you have to.
Kids.
Expensive, right? Can't live
Kids
on
with
$100
that, I can
salary.
agree.
Rent.
Okay.
Car, a lot of different bills.
Yeah.
Like, we don't, it sounds weird, but like, we don't have like, we don't get any practice, so like, we don't really know how it is to be an adult. Like, some of us, so like, how we are gonna be ready, we don't even get to experience how it is. How do we start off?
It's a hell of a question. What do you feel like you're missing? Like, so you don't have practice that?
Like more trust.
What trust? From whom?
You ever heard that saying, strict parents create sneaky kids?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
So then what gives your life a meaning? What gives your life a purpose? Or I guess if I were to ask you, like, what purpose do you see in your parents then? What do you think their purpose and their meaning is?
To provide for us.
To provide for you? It's weird though, isn't it? Like the stuff that gives us meaning and purpose is the thing that we complain about. And we're really good at complaining. We're really good at complaining. Here's a solution to your money problems. Money only matters to people who pay bills. So, if you want money to matter less to you, what should you do?
Become homeless.
Become homeless. If you become homeless, you don't have rent payment.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, is that reasonable?
I could just go backdoor McDonald's and there's open trash there.
Okay.
That's true. That's true. But answer genuinely. Answer honestly.
Yeah.
Is that a reasonable thing for most of you to just be homeless?
No.
No. So then you want to have a place to live. So then here's the thing: you're gonna have to pay rent or pay a mortgage. But here's the thing: I have to pay rent. I have to pay a mortgage. Bullshit. I get to pay rent. I get to have a mortgage because if you're paying rent, that means you have a place to live. And if you have a place to live, that's a really good thing, man. You know, it's like we bitch about, I have a car payment. Guess what that means, man? It means you have a car. Now, there are people who are walking down Highland. Do you think they're walking down Highland because they want more exercise? How many of you are walking home simply because you don't have a car, and you don't have a license, you don't have insurance, you have all of those things, but if you had them, you'd love to be driving. So if you're driving, yeah, you get a car payment, but man, that means you've got a car. Now, you can sit back and go, oh my God, all these bills I have to pay. No, all this shit you have, which is not a bad thing, but frame it in a completely different way. You know, we think of responsibility as being this horrible thing that when we get older, oh, I have all these responsibilities. Well, then what in the hell gives your life meaning and purpose except for the fulfillment of your responsibilities? I know that many of you want to have a family someday, you want to have children someday. Isn't that one of the most significant responsibilities that a person can take on, to have a family? If you want to raise kids, look around the world. We complain about the world so much. The world's so screwed up. We say stupid stuff like, we don't deserve dogs. Because people are so terrible. Every person was raised by somebody, or not raised by somebody. In other words, that's a responsibility that some people did not take seriously enough. But if you completely commit yourself to that responsibility and you do it well, you don't have a lot of time for other things. It takes up so much of your time. This idea that we want to have free time and leisure, some people probably have too much of it, which is why we parent the way that we do. It's why we teach the way that we teach. Free time does not, I'm sure you've heard, well, maybe you've heard the saying before that the devil finds work for idle hands. If you don't have much to do, you're going to fill it with something. The question is going to be, what do you fill it with? Do you fill it with responsibilities? Or do you fill it with a lack of responsibilities? Because these are the very things that give us meaning and purpose. So I'll tell you one thing for sure. If you don't have responsibility, it isn't that you therefore have no stress. No, your lack of stress comes from the fulfillment of your responsibilities. Having taken care of the things that are important. Having done something meaningful, having done something purposeful. You don't sit there and go like, I have nothing to do. Why do you have nothing to do? Because I have done everything. I have fulfilled my responsibilities. When we haven't, or when we feel like we're missing something, Those are the things that will loom on you. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of you already wake up in the middle of the night, stressed about some things. Why? Because you haven't fulfilled those things yet. You know, what am I going to do about money? If you've worked hard and you've gotten as much as you can, then you've done the best that you possibly can. That's what reduces your stress. Oh, I just bought this, this new car now to make this payment. That's what's going to cause the stress. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy stuff. Of course, you should buy stuff, especially if it's the stuff that you find to be meaningful, if it gives you some sort of a purpose, if it helps you to get up and work through the sufferings of life every day, because it gives you a reason to go on. But some of you have parents, like we're saying here, where like they struggle because the responsibility is to provide for a family. And if you're doing that, that's noble and it's honorable and it's good. Whatever work you're doing, as long as it's legal and honorable and good, do that work. It's the fulfillment of that responsibility. But there's something about us that especially today for some reason, that we run away from this. We even give it like funny names to try to prolong our childhood. We call it adulting. We give it a silly name. Oh, I'm adulting. Look, I ordered my own food at McDonald's. Like, my God, that's the level of it. And you're probably right. There's something there. I mean, we're reading about it right now in this article, The Fragile Generation, that so little responsibility is given to us that we come to believe that it's something to be afraid of. And I'd caution you, man. I mean, out of curiosity, how many of you guys want to become a teacher someday? I will say this. How many teachers do you have who actually seem like they like what they do? They actually enjoy it. Yeah? How many show up? Yeah. Well, so then I guess the question was, then why on earth would you want to become a teacher? Don't they kind of come in and complain all the time? We don't make any money. We're so underappreciated. We work 181 days out of the year, man. We have more days off than we have days on. Most of us are paid way more than we deserve. Most of us are, let's face it, most of us are shit at what we do. Especially after a certain number of years, we just fall into this road of doing the same thing every year because we feel like, well, it's a lot easier. That frees me of the responsibility of having to come up with things. We go into a binder and we take the work out of the binder because that it's pre-prepared for us. We go into a binder because, well, it's just easier to do that. That way, however you guys turn out is not my responsibility. No more stress. Now I've got more free time on the weekends to do, I don't know, crocheting? Mowing our lawns? I don't know, man. If any of you guys ever drive down the street and you see me out in front of my house and I'm down there picking at the grass because I feel like I have a responsibility to the neighborhood to maintain a beautiful lawn, run me over, man. And you're all witnesses. You all will say, he said to do it. It was a mercy killing. Because if you get to a point in your life where those are the things that consume you, those are the things that are going to drive you crazy because you're not really accomplishing anything that particularly nourishes your soul. And what nourishes your soul? I don't know. I have no idea, man. That's your challenge in life. That's your responsibility. To find the things that are meaningful to you, the things that create purpose for you. And if you're going to take up and if you're going to have a life that's full of meaning and purpose, one thing I will promise you, it's probably going to be full of this responsibility thing. That's why, how meaningful of a life you want to have. That will determine how big of a responsibility you take up. You want to have a really meaningful life, then you find like the heaviest goddamn thing that you can in life and you pick it up and you carry it. Not because you have to, not because you're paid to do it, not because it's expected of you, but you do it willingly. And if you're doing it willingly, then it takes away a lot of the stress because you recognize, I've chosen this. This is part of the problem. When we choose to become fill in the blank, you're choosing a responsibility. We were just talking about before. I come in here, I have no idea what I'm going to say to you guys that's going to stick with you. I told you my math teacher when I was in high school told me that, told the whole class, not just me, that we're basically retarded and wouldn't learn math anyway. And I thought, hey, he might be right about that. I saw my grades. And then he instead chose to read us stories. And I thought, I like stories though. I should learn more stories. And he's dead today, but if I were to talk to him, like, I guess I could, a Ouija board, but if I were to talk to this guy, I bet he probably had no recollection of ever having said that to the class, because it was one of the most impactful things I ever heard, and for him it was Tuesday. You'll be amazed, man. You'll be amazed. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about because you remember something about your parents or about your neighbors or about some teacher, somebody who said something to you that pushes you in a direction. The fear of freedom is this fear of assuming this responsibility, and that's the fear of growing up, because once you take responsibility, then you recognize that you're responsible for how everything turns out, even if it's out of your control. Because you can't control all of your circumstances, but you 100% can control how you respond to your circumstances. This is the Stoic thing that we looked at a few weeks ago. We have this tendency, though, to put the word blame in there, though. Well, then you're blamed for how you turn out. No, there is no blame. Most people are not out there trying to ruin your life. There are some. I've dated them. Some people are not out there just trying to ruin your life entirely. At least they're not trying to ruin your life any more than you're doing it yourself. But we can respond to the circumstances of life and then maximize it within those confines. Work to fulfill the most amount of responsibility that we possibly can. The things that matter, the things that mean something. And again, I don't know what those are for you. That's up to you to figure out. But we can be afraid of how things turn out. If I were to ask you what some of your fears are about growing up, it goes back to exactly what you were saying. Well, we don't know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, you can't know how things are going to turn out. And if you can't know how things are going to turn out, that's the frightening thing. That's the whole fear of death. That's the death terror. What happens afterwards? No idea. What happens after high school? No idea. You can conceptualize it. You can imagine what it might be like, but none of us knows. Walk down Highland. Pop your head into all the shops that are there. Go down to Walmart. I wonder how many of the people who are working in all these places imagine themselves doing that when they were sitting in the seats that you're sitting in right now. Not that it's bad work, it's good work. Again, it's honorable, it's noble. All I'm asking is, did they imagine that? By the way, some of those people who have those jobs that none of you would want to have, or none of us would want to have, they're living incredibly meaningful and purposeful lives. Incredibly fulfilling lives because they're assuming some level of responsibility. Understand that deeper the level of responsibility that you take, yeah, some negative things come along with it, but man, so many more positives too. If I were to ask him, is it hard to do this thing with your brother? Yes, of course. Is it meaningful though? Is it good? Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?